Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. We are now in the final days of March of 2026, and still to this day, the hosts of The View are deciding to go off the rails and really doubling down on their politics, on their anti-Trump messaging campaign, and doing some of the most absurd things possible, both behind the scenes and on the air in front of a live audience. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01, and thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Whoopi Goldberg is that we know that they continue to act very inflammatory and irrational, both on air and behind the scenes, with those like the coordinators, the producers on set, and many more that are involved in the process of developing the show. We know one thing about this further, though, is that Sunny, Whoopi, and Joy are continuing to actually dig themselves into a deeper hole, to the point that they really just can't escape out of that, and they are at a point of no return. Now, we know that new Disney CEO Josh D'Amaro, so far, everything for him is off to a bad start because he's basically just adopting everything that Bob Iger allowed to happen on ABC and allowed to happen on a specific program like The View. And it gets worse from this point forward, as of course where you have those like Sunny, Whoopi, and Joy and how they got caught doing something quite unspeakable. So let's dive into that. Now, what's interesting about all of this is that when you're looking at The View, we already know that they are dealing with multiple ratings disasters, one after the other, and this is mainly driven by the fact that a lot of their own fans are beginning to walk away in droves. A lot of their own long, loyal viewers, by the way, are deciding to say, yeah, you know, those like Sunny, Whoopi, and Joy, they're going way too far politically speaking. However, with the hosts of The View still to this day going off the rails and doubling down on politics with their agenda to the public, one major development going on now involves more to do with the hosts of The View, like Sunny, Whoopi, and Joy, and how they recently got caught doing something that even ABC producers were stunned by on set after their most recent taping concluded. Now, a crucial update to this situation involves how hosts Joy, Whoopi, and Sunny were recently caught drinking both on set and backstage before their recent show started. It turns out that ABC producers and coordinators found this out after they discovered a couple of wine bottles behind the host's desk on the stage. What was alarming to the producers before they discovered the bottles was Sunny, Whoopi, and Joy's behavior, both on air and during multiple commercial breaks, where they kept on laughing and also making outrageous remarks that had to be cut out of the recent episode. More on that later. It turns out once producers suspected that something was going on during one of the commercial breaks, producers and coordinators demanded Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, and Sunny Hostin to step aside from the set, and that this is where they discovered what was a couple of wine glasses. But what that wasn't the only discovery. Producers also discovered what appeared to be other wine glasses backstage that had wine in the actual glass still, that was obviously the cause of them acting uncontrollably, both on air and behind the scenes, to the point that some segments had to be cut out of the most recent episode before it even aired on live television, since there is a delay. This information was handed up to the Disney executives, and surprisingly, even new Disney CEO Josh D'Amaro, and how he's actually reacting and fuming over the fact that these recent turn of events that happen on the set are actually turning out to be something that happened under his new leadership. It turns out that wine bottles were specifically meant to be used as props, to be unopened for the background of the set strictly, similar to what Disney did last year under Bob Iger's leadership. The remainder of the most recent episode did not have Joy and Sunny at the desk, and only Whoopi Goldberg, and the other hosts like Sarah, Alyssa, and Anna, since Whoopi was in more control with her behavior, surprisingly. Already, ABC producers and executives are completely panicking about this recent drama that took place on the set, behind the scenes, and on the air. Producers reportedly acted very quickly, get this, to those monitoring everything in their control room, including the director of The View, to edit out the sequences where Joy and Sunny primarily were laughing uncontrollably, to the point that it was distracting even for the live audience, and making terrible comments on camera, some of which involved jokes about, get this, white privilege and more. Now guys, let me just stop here quick for one moment. Now, this is obviously not a good look, internally speaking, for Josh D'Amaro, from the board of directors, from many Disney investors, from shareholders, and especially from those that are actually a part of ABC programming. It goes to show you that there is really going to be no real accountability that will be held by Disney, and we'll get into that in just a second as well, because he's basically copying Bob Iger once again, And we already know that whatever Disney does to the hosts of The View, whatever kind of punishment or whatever they do to actually make it seem like they're doing something against them, is just all a facade to make it look like they are taking some form of accountability. Make no mistake, the Walt Disney Company and their top 3 investors like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, they love The View because it pushes propaganda, it pushes obvious fake and false narratives out there that really just are meant to manipulate the audience. That's what it's all about. And even their own fans are beginning to wake up to that. That's why you have a large ratings decline on the average. Now, interestingly enough, Disney CEO Josh D'Amaro, all right, prepare for this, is already considering some kind of internal studio investigation over exactly what happened on set, and more details on that will emerge very soon as time goes on. As of now, Josh D'Amaro placed yet another suspension on Joy, Whoopi, and Sunny for a pathetic 3-day suspension during the month of April over what happened. Now, look, I've said this so many times, all these different suspensions that they get, it is so absolutely pathetic because it really just does not do anything. It's basically what they did to Jimmy Kimmel. You guys may recall, he only got 1 suspension though. This is like the 4th time now for Joy, Whoopi, and Sunny just in 1 year, just within the past 12 months. And that goes to show you that these suspensions means absolutely nothing. You know, when you're looking at those like Josh D'Amaro, Bob Iger as CEOs, they really haven't showed any actual action that would actually translate to taking proper accountability for ABC's The View, and really just trying to control the hosts. What they should really do at the bare minimum, and I know I've said this so many times, fire at least one of the hosts to make an example of that they are not to be actually, played with as, a corporation or used with, and that's what they should do. But they're not going to do that. Like I pointed out before, is that because Disney loves the propaganda, they love pushing the false narratives, they love programs that are political. This is exactly why Jimmy Kimmel Live exists. This is exactly why shows like The View do in fact exist. And the fact that you have the host drinking behind the scenes, both behind the actual set piece, like the stage, or the desk, if you will, sitting on the stage, and backstage, both behind the scenes and on air, to the point that the control room, all right, those involved in the editing process had the cutout segments early on before it actually reached people's televisions. That goes to show you how much of a panic they were really in over the View hosts' behavior after they were actually caught drinking. Now, we know one thing about this too. This has happened before with Joy, Whoopi, and Sunny, like over a year ago, you guys may recall. It wasn't quite as bad as this, but this just really goes to show you that this is already off to a bad start for Josh D'Amaro's quote-unquote start to a new legacy as Disney CEO. It's really not looking good for him so far. And already, what they are trying to do with returning DEI and that whole DEI narrative to many franchises up and coming, that's also not going to help their case as well. So he's also going to be resurrecting that overall strategy by Bob Iger that he himself promised to dial down. But what's interesting about this, guys, I'd like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I'll catch you guys later.
Done it again. He has completely checkmated the Democrats and have foiled their plans. And you know what their plans are? When they did that initial shutdown, was that late last year or was that early this year? The shutdown that they did, I think it was around November, around Thanksgiving time. AOC is on record saying that they didn't bring enough pain to the American people.
What they're learning is that Democrats are weak, and that next time we just need to hurt working people and working Americans more. Hurt working people and working Americans more to get them to fold.
And that the next time they would make sure that it's done the right way. And that's what they're going about now. And let's be clear, you may already know this, but ICE and CBP are fully funded all the way to the year 2029 with $100 billion. So nothing that the Democrats is doing is impacting ICE or CBP's ability to work. And that's what this supposedly was all about. That's what they're selling to their ignorant base who does no research. Most don't even realize ICE is already funded. Now, what the Democrats want is judicial warrants on every single deportation. They want the ICE agents to wear body cameras, which the administration agreed to do. And the moment the administration agreed to do it, they pulled it back. Because they thought the Trump administration was going to buck at it. They said, no, that's cool. What the Democrats realize is that the body camera, it works both ways. It also shows the deranged activists out there infringing and obstructing on their investigations, what will make it look bad. So they want to pull back. So they want judicial warrants, body cameras, and they want ICE to be unallowed, not allowed to be at churches, which they don't do now, going in schools, which they don't do now. And you ready for this last one? At polling stations. Now, while the Democrats run around saying no illegal immigrants ever vote, why would any American citizen give a darn if ICE is at the polling station? Unless you're an illegal immigrant voting, which in California, we already found over 430,000 illegal immigrants were registered to vote and had voted because they had been selected for jury duty but could not participate because they weren't American citizens. But they get their jury duty pool from the voter rolls.
You know, the California court system is running into a little bit of an issue. See, they have a lot of court. So because of that, they need a lot of juries. But here's the problem they keep running into. Last year alone, they brought in people for jury duty and found that more than 450,000 of them didn't qualify. Do you know why they didn't qualify? They didn't qualify because they weren't citizens. Now, if that doesn't sound like a big deal to you, it's because you don't know how jury selection works. Because do you know where they get the list of people to bring in as a jury? The registered voter rolls. That's how you register for jury duty. When you register to vote, are determined to be eligible to vote, you are then eligible for jury duty. So what that means is that California had at least 450,000 people who were registered to vote, but were not citizens. Meaning that's 450,000 people in California who are illegally registered to vote.
So that's exposed right there. Now, in this video, you're going to hear from Hakeem Jeffries, who Dana Bash, I never want to give CNN any credit, but she's going to push him on this whole fiasco they called. You're also going to hear from Tom Homan, the border czar, who has been getting it done. And you're going to hear what President Trump had to say, because the Democrats didn't expect this. And even Elon Musk volunteered to pay the salaries of the TSA agents. And the only thing with that, I believe the funds have to come from a government agency. So how Elon would have worked that, who knows? But it's the fact that that's a billionaire who was willing to put his money where his heart is. And he was going to help out to make these lines better. Matter of fact, my wife is literally flying back from Denver, Colorado. Right now, she's on the plane as I make this video. And her wait time, she got through it in about an hour and a half, but her flight was one of the first flights leaving out this morning at 7 a.m. And she said it was building up. But have no fear, Donald Trump's plan and Tom. That it was building up. But have no fear, Donald Trump's plan and Tom Homan's arrangement is here. So let's get into it. Trump outsmarts Democrats while they refuse to fund airport security. So let's make sure that we fully understand exactly what's going on. This is the airport right now, most airports around the country. That is massive. And I think a little over 400 TSA agents have called out or resigned. And I get it, they haven't gotten paid in a month, which makes things like putting gas in your car, buying groceries, paying your electric bill. Hopefully everybody was caught up on their electric bill or their cell phone bill, or else that stuff is getting shut off. And what do? And this is all because the Democrat Party wants to protect illegal immigrants. Let's make sure we always remember that, never forget that they did this. Now, Patriots, thank you for watching. And if you would, YouTube's algorithm loves it when they see a like or a comment. So if you're enjoying the video, hit that like button and leave a comment. It really helps the video be spread out, and share this information with more Patriots and more MAGA members and people want to see the country great again. And if you're not subscribed already, subscribe. And when you do, hit that notification bell and select all. We really appreciate it. Now I'll get back to the content. Can you imagine if they ever were given power again, what they are willing to do? They're going to destroy the filibuster, pack the Supreme Court, move to take our weapons away. But listen to Fox News as they break this story down. Then you're going to hear from Tom Homan and Hakeem Jeffries as he is in the hot seat, finally. But check this clip out.
Of Trump confirming that ICE agents will be in airports. Writing on Truth Social on Monday, ICE will be going to airports to help our wonderful TSA agents who have stayed on the job despite the fact the radical left Democrats, who are only focused on protecting hardline criminals who have entered our country illegally, are endangering the USA by holding back the money that was long ago agreed to with signed and sealed contracts and all. More than 1,300 flights across the U.S. are already delayed this morning. Madeline Rivera is in Washington with the latest. Good morning, Maddie.
Yeah, so this is to address those staffing shortages. DHS says more than 400 TSA agents have left as they continue to go without pay. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the employees have been put in a corner.
They're staying at a five-star hotel while the island's electrical grid has collapsed for the second time in a week. The island of Cuba is in complete darkness because of years of poor maintenance and decay.
Okay, well, the president saying on Truth Social, like you said, Griff, that ICE will be going to airports to help the wonderful TSA agents. The president saying that these agents will do a fantastic job. He says Tom Homan is in charge. But this comes after Republicans blocked a Democratic measure on Saturday to fund TSA, but not ICE and CBP. Senate Majority Leader John Thune called the gambit a convoluted approach to go around the Senate Appropriations Committee. He says Democrats are the ones who have continually blocked a bill to fund all of DHS, including DSA. One thing to watch this week, guys, is the confirmation of Senator Markwayne Mullin as DHS Secretary. His nomination will now be considered by the full Senate, where he just needs a simple majority. During his confirmation hearing.
So there you have it. Trump said, okay, you don't want to do your job. You don't want to do what you need to do, Democrats. And TSA agents, those that stuck around, we know you're hurting. We're going to send some help for you. They're in airports right now, this morning, doing what it is that they need to do. But let's check out Tom Homan and what he had to say, because he was on the same show that Hakeem Jeffries comes on. Hakeem Jeffries is after him. But let's listen to Tom Homan and pay attention to the propaganda. Realize something, CNN is last in cable news network as far as on viewership, last. Sponsorship dried up. They just got bought out by Ellison, who is a MAGA guy, and they're terrified. Matter of fact, I'm gonna be doing a video on that soon. They're terrified because they know Jake Tapper and Anderson Cooper, their days are numbered, especially Abby Phillip. She need to be the first one booted out of there. And so they've gone full commie. They're doing puff pieces for Iran. Why would the Iranian Islamic regime feel comfortable with only CNN being invited in? They're nowhere near the highest rated network. They have very low viewership. Less than 500,000 people watch CNN during prime time. Less than 500,000. That is extremely low. And at one point in time, they were respected, but not anymore. It is because of propaganda like this. Everybody can see they're an extended arm of the Democrat Party, and now they're working on behalf of dictators, of Arab dictators. But listen to her as she tries to spin this. But Tom Homan stays smooth, calm, steady, and he handles it. Check this out. On the heels of all of the stuff that's taking place in the country right now, seniors, it's extremely important that you make sure you've got the best Medicare plan available, because this year, Medicare plans are expected to increase 10%. And that's $215 out of your Social Security check. And guess what? Some of your doctors may not be in network. Some of your prescriptions may no longer be covered. And that would suck for you to be going to visit your doctor to find out they're not in network, or for you to need a prescription to find out it's no longer covered. Why take the risk? With Chapter, you can reach out to Chapter and
remotely trained to handle security at airports.
ICE agents receive a high level of training. And, the ICE agents are assigned at many airports across the country already. They do a lot of criminal investigation on smuggling at airports. But, there's got TSA agents covering exits, people that enter through the exits. certainly a highly trained ICE and law enforcement officer can cover an exit, makes people don't go through those exits, entering the airport through the exits, and that would stuff like that relieves that TSA officer to go to screening and to reduce those lines. So wherever we can provide extra security, I don't see an ICE agent looking at an X-ray machine because they're not trained in that. There are certain parts of security that TSA is doing that we can move them off those jobs and put them in the specialized jobs, help move those lines.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. So what you're saying is when you move ICE into airports, they are going to be just around the exits and the exteriors. They're not going to be helping people get through the lines and screening people's bags.
Those discussions are going on now. I'm not expert at TSA, so that's why I'm talking to the TSA administrator and the ICE director, find out where we can fit in. We'll have a plan by the end of today where we're sending what airports we're starting with and where we're sending them, but that's the discussion we're having right now. I ended the discussion to do the show, and I'll be back having the discussions when I finish. So it's a work in progress, but we will be at the airports tomorrow.
Yeah. So, she's trying to be so negative on it as if immigration, ICE agents who are out here running down the worst hombres in the country, nabbing them up, booting them out of this country. She acts like it is just so challenging to stand there and watch people walk through a metal detector. And if it goes off, to take the wand and wave it around them. And like Tom Homan said, they may not be looking at the X-ray screens because they have not been trained on how to look for anomalies in baggage and things like that. But protecting the door, helping to remove unruly passengers, snatching up and nabbing illegal immigrants. Now, on a longer clip, she asked about that. Like, so are they going to be enforcing immigration at the airport? And Dana Bash knows that the ICE has been at airports since last year. As a matter of fact, TSA shares the flight law or the flight manifest with ICE, where they run through the names that are going to be getting on the plane, and they know if an illegal immigrant is on it. She knows that. But again, their purpose is to spin. It's the Communist News Network. Now, let's listen to the TSA assistant director. Then we're going to get into Hakeem Jeffries. Let's listen to what he has to say about it. While the Democrats act like, oh my God, it's just such a terrible thing. Let's listen to how one of the directors of TSA feels about it.
As the days continue, this is going to continue to get worse. We are certainly grateful, of course, for President Trump, Director Lyons, and Boris R. Homan for the ICE support, and they're going to be conducting non-specialized security support, manning the exit lanes, crowd management, line control. So we're incredibly grateful, again, for their support to help alleviate the challenges that our officers are facing, that the traveling population is facing. But we're hopeful, but we're going to continue to focus on the mission. And if this drags on, it's going to continue to get worse. But we are certainly hopeful as the days continue.
There you have it. He's happy. He's grateful. The only people not grateful are the Democrats. See, Trump plays 5D chess with these politicians. He's a businessman that went up against the mob in the 70s, went up against the NFL in the 80s when he was a part owner of the USFL. He went up against the United States government from 2023 and 2024, and then beat back the deep state, the entire Democrat Party, and the lamestream legacy media to regain the presidency of the United States. Snatched up Maduro in 3 minutes from a secret hideout base, has just completely obliterated Iran, has called out the other NATO partners and exposed their unwillingness to join us until all the heavy lifting has been done. Like now, how all of them are jumping on the Iran train. Why? Because they know America has done the job. If it was going bad, like the mainstream media and the Democrats wanted you to believe, the UK, Japan, and all of those that are sending support, ships and everything now, they would stay way away from it. But that's not what's happening. So let's listen to this Democrat as he tries to blow smoke, and listen to how Hakeem Jeffries spins this. One thing I will say about Hakeem Jeffries, and it's not a positive thing, but it's what he does. He will spin things that he knows is a bold-faced lie. And he does it with vigor and with energy and will make a dumb person believe it. Hakeem Jeffries is the example of sounding smart to dumb people. Democrats only sound intelligent to ignorant people. Anybody with the brain and common sense and the ability to really listen and listen with the intent to understand realizes Democrats don't say anything meaningful. They have no plan. They speak in circles and talk in all of these one-liners and that make people say, whoa, yeah, we got to help people pay their bills and make life more affordable. Well, no crap. But to an ignorant person, they like, right on, you got my vote. But they never said how or how much or how long. They never do. They never do. But check this out.
Let me ask you about that, because you are the whole reason, as you just laid out, that DHS is not funded right now is because you're trying to push the administration to enact some policy changes on how Border Patrol and ICE act when they're out looking for illegal immigrants. And now what you're saying is that you're okay with funding TSA, which has been, I think, the biggest point of leverage that you possibly had in order to get what you want on ICE, because ICE already has its money. So what was the point of this shutdown if you're okay with funding TSA?
Good question, Dana. Well, that was a great question that we typically don't see from this network. Y'all, this is when you know it's going bad. When the lamestream media starts saying, holy crap. And there's a girl that named Simone that works on BS Now, MSDNC. Oh my God, she completely went in. Matter of fact, I'll share that clip too. She completely went in on Democrats, but I'll let him finish.
Ever approach these things that are in front of us with respect to government funding in the context of leverage? Our approach is, what is the appropriate use of taxpayer dollars? And we believe that taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for the American people.
No crap.
Not brutalize or kill them or violently target law-abiding immigrant families, which is what we know ICE agents have been doing.
I'm just trying to understand how, if you fund TSA and the other agencies that you just talked about, how you think that you will be able to put pressure then on the administration to make the changes to ICE that you're asking for.
The American people are going to continue to put pressure on the administration because
that's him right there giving up. Giving up. He know that they've lost. So now he's putting it on the people to be disruptive. These folks, I apologize for stopping, but
ICE is out of control. They need to be reined in. And our view is that they should not get another dime of taxpayer dollars until we have bold and dramatic and meaningful changes to ICE's behavior so that they are compelled to behave like every other law enforcement agency in the country. That includes making sure that there are judicial warrants that are required before ICE agents can rip the American people out of their homes in the middle of the night.
Now he knows, and the Democrats know, judicial warrants would slow the process down, and we never deport anybody. They know that that's a non-starter. They know, and then they're not bringing up the $1.5 trillion they also want to fund illegal immigrants. This is why the Save America Act is so important. Now, Simone from MSDNC completely ripped Democrats. Check this out.
I have been warning about this for weeks, and now here we are. In trying to oppose the SAVE Act, Democrats have actually backed themselves into a corner, and now we're potentially staring down a vote on a national voter ID bill. Let me ask a very simple question. Since when is the Democratic Party for voter ID? Because let's be very clear about what is actually happening. The Save America Act is not about voter ID. It is about requiring proof of citizenship, talking passports, birth certificates. Some of these are papers that millions of eligible Americans do not have access to. Oh, and if you are a married woman who has changed your last name, well, good luck. This is a completely different standard. But instead of forcing that distinction, instead of solely having that conversation, the conversation has now collapsed into, you support voter ID or not? And that, folks, is a trap. Because the argument for voter ID is actually built on a premise that does not hold up. People are not showing up to the polls pretending to be someone else in droves. That's actually not a widespread problem. We already verify identity in multiple ways throughout the country. Signature matching, right? Flawed, but a way to verify.
This woman just said signature matching, flawed, but a way to verify. You see how nonsensical they actually are? And this whole shtick about married women, I was recently married 3 years ago. Do you know what my wife had to get? She had to show proof of her birth or her passport and her ID in order for us to even do that, to get to be married. And she did her name change.
Voter files, database check?
In order to get her name changed, she had to provide proof of citizenship. And guess what? She did it without a problem. It costs less than $50 to order a birth certificate online. And in different municipalities, it's even cheaper, but $50. And to get a passport is about $180. And you can get it expedited and get it delivered in a few weeks. So when they use this weak excuse, this is how people know they full of it. But let me let her finish.
Throughout the country. Signature matching, right? Flawed, but a way to verify. Voter files, database checks. I mean, in everyday life, you can move money, verify who you are, without pulling out a physical ID. So, what problem are we actually solving here? We're not solving one. What this does is shift the frame from access to restriction. And once you concede that frame, you are no longer arguing about whether people can vote. You're actually arguing about how hard it should be.
And it should be hard. It should not be easy for anybody to just jump in our elections and vote. That should be extremely challenging. These people are deranged.
Because of that shift, we are talking about a national voter ID bill while the Save America Act is still looming in the background. I clearly have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of questions. We had Senator Jackie Rosen of Nevada on our show Thursday night, and we pressed her about it. I asked her all of the things I just said to you here. And this is what she had to say. Schumer is saying that Democrats would vote for a national voter ID bill, and now at least there's one Republican senator that is talking about bringing it to the floor under unanimous consent. Signature, I don't think the question on the table isn't whether people want to verify who they are when they go to vote. The voter ID is about the fact that Republicans are saying that people are going to vote as other people who they aren't. That's not an issue in America. So why would Democrats support that?
And that's not what Republicans are saying, and she knows that. Republicans are not saying people are showing up voting as somebody else. They're saying people are voting that shouldn't be voting at all. People are voting that should not have IDs, and now we know that China was sending driver's licenses over, and there were plenty of people that utilized fake identification to go into these polling stations like in California, where you could just sign and say, yes, I am who I say I am. And the vote is, in California, it's illegal to ask for ID. And in the other blue states, if you don't have your ID, they just have you sign an affidavit saying, I am who I say I am. And guess what? Vote counted. So she's manipulating and twisting it.
Well, I'm not sure what Leader Schumer was talking about, but I can tell you this. I guess we better have a conversation.
Seems like Democrats need to have a conversation.
So she's panicking over the fact that all of this shutdown stuff was about illegal immigrants not having ICE show up at polling stations. And now the Save America Act is right in the mix of this. And Chuck Schumer just the other day when press said, yeah, he supports voter ID and he would vote for it. So now he has fell into it. You said this publicly, Chucky boy. So if you're okay with voter ID, what's the big deal with requiring proof of citizenship? And then he's lying, saying that Doge and Elon Musk created an algorithm, and what he does, he's double talks ignorant people. He says tens of millions will be kicked off the voter rolls. He's absolutely right. Tens of millions of illegal immigrants that are on our voter rolls that shouldn't be there will be booted off. He's admitting out loud, there's tens of millions of these people in here voting in these elections, and they know it. Blue states are refusing, all of them have refused to turn over their voter rolls, even though that's a federal law. So now the government is suing these states. These Democrats have never fought this hard for the American people, ever. They never cried hard for an American like Laken Riley and Dakar Thompson like they did for Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Never. They never fought for the people. And they keep talking, oh, we got to make it more affordable. No crap, Sherlock. But you're out here making life more unaffordable. In every blue state where they had a new mayor, a new governor, the people are hurting worse than what they did under Biden. They're so evil, they're not even letting people take advantage of President Trump's no tax, no tips, no tax on overtime in blue states, if you had not heard. They're not adhering to it. And it's all over the fact that they know without illegal immigrants, they lose seats in Congress. Without illegal immigrants, they lose millions of votes. Without illegal immigrants, the reign of the Democrat Party is over for the next 20, 30, 40 years unless they make a serious transition, which I just don't see. They're so far left extremists, that party's going to die out and a new one is going to take its place. And the far left extremists of the Democrat Party will become a small little party that won't mean anything. Something else is going to take its place. Just like the far right extremists, neocons, they're going to have to break off and do their own thing because